Hi there, my name is Tim Yaussi. I'm a Solutions Architect at CorKat Data Solutions, and today I'd like to talk about cloud basics. So let's start by going over a brief history of cloud and then defining what cloud is. Cloud dates back to the 70s. It was used in ARPANET and CSNet networks. These were government networks, and the cloud symbol was actually used in the demarcation point of each one of these sites that was connected to each other. Today, essentially, the cloud is just the internet. It's a fabric of devices all across the globe that are interconnected that make our daily lives. But servers in the cloud are generally hosted in data centers. And when we talk about public cloud and we talk about private cloud, these public and private clouds are hosted in tiered data centers. So not all data centers are the same. Okay, so we'll start at the top and we'll work our way down. The largest data centers are tier 4 data centers. These are billion-dollar data centers. They can sustain several days of power outage, and they have two independent utility paths. So this is more than just independent redundant electricity. This is two separate utility companies bring water, electricity, cooling, gas. Everything is completely redundant. These are used in public cloud and mega corporations like Google and Facebook. Next, we have tier 3 data centers. This is where CorKat lies. We are $1 million data center, and we can sustain several days without a power outage. In fact, with our diesel generators, we can stay up indefinitely with a power outage. We have redundant power and cooling systems. And yeah, these are used in private cloud like CorKat and other enterprise networks. Going down a tier, we start to see the medium-sized business data centers. These are the typical network closets that you might see in a medium-sized business. They have UPSs to supply battery backups. They can typically stay up for about 1 to 2 hours, and they do have some form of AC cooling in that system. And a tier 1 data center is everything else, essentially. Any other device that's in the cloud but doesn't have any redundant components to it. So essentially your computer could be technically considered in the cloud. Some people say that they have a data center when maybe they're just running a server in their basement. This is kind of where the tier 1 lies. And as we go up in tiers, the availability to these servers increases. Okay, so let's go over the differences between public cloud and private cloud. So in public cloud, you have a public virtual data center, and in private cloud, you have a private virtual data center. Well, what's the difference between those? Public virtual data center is generally developed internally. So they have a front end that's really polished. It's a very powerful system, very powerful infrastructure, but it's not necessarily open source. It's only documented by that platform, by that infrastructure, and you have to work within their bounds. In a private virtual data center, you use generally a third-party software to create the provider front end. We at CorKat, we use vCloud Director. That's by VMware. And the positives of this is that other private clouds use vCloud Director as well. So there's a little bit of overlap in that sense that makes vCloud Director a little bit more familiar than AWS or Azure, as those are very different from each other. Public cloud connects over the internet, so that's really just pretty much the only way you can sort of manage your systems is directly over that internet. Whereas private cloud, there's a lot of different options. You can use an MPLS. If you need an IPsec tunnel, you can configure that as well. We have customers that have point-to-points that use fiber. So there's lots of different options in that area. Public cloud is generally metered resources, so they're going to be monitoring the amount of usage, the bandwidth, just how much I/O you are using in your environment. Whereas in private cloud, generally, private cloud providers will give you a fixed amount of resources, and you have unlimited use of those resources, and it's all you can eat, and the monthly billing is fixed. Public cloud is better suited for massive quantities of public information. So a good example of this is websites that are public websites, especially like social media. You will get an influx of public data. You'll have a massive amount of data, and you need a place to store that. And that's where data warehouses sort of come into play. Private cloud is better suited for large quantities of private information because we're trying to limit the availability of people able to access that data, third parties being able to access that data. So private cloud is definitely better suited for more confidential information, and it's easier to manage in that fashion. Public cloud has a rigid architecture. So going back to that front end, there is a set amount of things you can do. They're generally very powerful, but you're limited to just that. You have to play by their rules, and you have to follow their guidelines. In private cloud, it's definitely a lot more flexible. So you're definitely allowed to do things like physical co-location. You could put in a physical firewall. Maybe you want to implement your own storage device. We have several customers that co-locate their own data appliances for backups. So there's definitely a lot more flexibility with private cloud. And finally, in public cloud, everything is do-it-yourself. So you're expected to do everything from building the VMs to configuring the operating system, configuring the network, and making it all talk. And really, you're not going to get a whole lot of help. You might be able to call technical support, but they're probably going to be on the other side of the globe, and they're generally not that helpful unless you have some kind of enterprise support agreement. Now, in private cloud, much of it is white-gloved. So a lot of it, when you sign a quote, you will essentially have much of it built for you already. The goal is to get it all built as quick as possible so that you can send it over to your customer and they can start working in production. And then it's up to you to sort of manage that moving forward. Hopefully that clears up some things about cloud. And if you have any questions, please visit our website. You can also email us at sales@corkatdata.com, and you can also give us a call. Thank you.